and time now for a chat with Mary Holm, and it's lovely to catch up with Mary as always.
Thanks, Mark.
And well, this could possibly be a good tip today, because a lot of people are struggling with the bills coming in and thinking, how do we cope with this? And there's something we can do with regard to rates.
With rates, and rates have been going up horrific amounts around the country.
Gosh, yes.
Huge, big increases. And there's something out there called rates postponement, where you delay paying your rates until you sell the house, basically. And now, it doesn't apply to everybody everywhere, I should say that up front, but there's quite a few councils that offer it, and I'll read that list out shortly. And then there's other councils that offer it, but only to low-income people.
Right.
But there's quite a few councils that offer it to anyone on any income.
So like it's a mortgage holiday, it's a rates holiday.
Yes, that's a good way of putting it, actually. And it's a way of, if people are, it's tends to be retired people who do it, and in fact quite a lot of the schemes only offer it to people who are 65 and older, or sometimes 60 and older, or in some cases also younger people who are financially struggling. It varies with the council, but the point is that even if you're not financially struggling, but let's say you're retired and you could use a bit more income to go on holidays and things like that, there's no real reason why you shouldn't do
Take advantage of it.
Yes, exactly. And so many people haven't heard of them. And
So it's not a case of you have to have your house for sale.
No, absolutely not. No, it's what happens is you don't pay your rates for a period.
Yep.
And instead, that's a debt to the council that you owe, and that debt gets paid back when you sell the house, or
so it could be
when you die.
5 years or 10 years time.
It might be 20 or 30 years time,
Really?
of course, because somebody who does it at 65 and lives to 95 and stays in the same house, or in some cases you can actually transfer it to another house if you move within the district. So
it would be gathering interest.
That's exactly right. It does. Yes, you have to pay interest to the council, and that compounds, and so it does mean that the debt grows. It's like a mini reverse mortgage for those who know about reverse mortgages. If you don't worry about that.
Yes.
It's so basically you're not paying rates, and as you say, you pay interest on it, but the interest rate you pay is the rate that the council pays to borrow money. The way that's set up is that it means it's not unfair to other ratepayers, and especially if you're not struggling, you're not financially struggling, why should other ratepayers subsidise you? So they don't. Instead, you don't pay rates, and the council charges you interest at whatever rate it pays to borrow the money. So, for example, in Auckland at the moment it's 6.4%, which is, it does compound over the years. But what people don't always think about is, okay, the debt's growing, but the value of their house is growing as well. And typically, in nearly all circumstances, the value of the house is going to be growing faster than the rate postponement plan.
Not necessarily has been the case at the current.
That's right, with house values going down, but that's probably a fairly short-term phenomenon. I mean, they might not necessarily and probably won't grow again at a very fast pace.
No.
Excuse me. But they will probably, over the 10 years or more, would be very amazing.
Indeed.
House prices didn't grow. And look, even if they didn't actually, if you're sitting on a house worth, let's say, 800,000, and you're running up this debt bill that by the time 20 years later, maybe it'll be 100,000, but so you're getting 800,000 for the house and knock off 100,000 that you owe to the council. It still means that you've had some money in the meantime that you could either be taking care of big, essential stuff, or going travelling or something like that.
Enjoying life while you can still enjoy.
Yeah, I
enjoy
think there's something to be said for that.
Yeah.
So it's on your own home only. It's not, you can't do it on your batch or a rental property.
Right.
And usually your house will be mortgage free or close to mortgage free before you take on one of these. And you do have to pay some costs. So you've got to pay interest on it, and there's some upfront costs. But they're typically only a few $100. It might total up to, $300, $400, $500.
Yes.
And that can be actually added to the debt if you don't want to pay that at the moment.
What if you're in a retirement village or something like that?
Yes.
Is that a
Yes, these days most of the council schemes do include people in retirement villages. Right. Yeah, and so that's a fairly new development, I think. And shall I read out the list of councils that are currently offering this? I've arranged them sort of more or less in order from the far north on down south. So we've got Far North Rodney, Thames Coromandel, Waikato Regional Council, Western Bay of Plenty, Rotorua, Gisborne, Masterton, South Wairarapa, Kapiti Coast, Marlborough, Nelson, Ashburton, Queenstown Lakes, and then that was a list that was made in 2006 from the Office of the Auditor General. Yeah. Since then, I know Auckland has joined.
Right.
I don't know. It took too long to check all the council websites, but I suggest people check their own council website and look for the word rates postponement on it. Now, a couple of other points about them. Usually the debt will stop at when it gets to 80% of the house's value. Yep. But usually it won't get anywhere near that. That's just a condition of the loan, but typically it might get to more like 10 or 20% of the value of the house. And they come with a guarantee that you'll never owe more than the value of the property. So the councils have set that up so you can't end up with an extra debt after you've sold the house. Yes. And it would be very unusual if you were anywhere near that sort of position. But if you were to approach a council, what they do is put your numbers of your property and your situation into a model that they've got, and that will show you if you borrow this much, this is the likely outcome for it, and so on. So people can, before they commit, they can have a little look at how it's likely to add up for them.
The other thing about rates is they sort of come quarterly, don't they? So,
is it quarterly? Yes, it is quarterly. Yes, that's right.
Is it? Yeah. I presume it's possible to pay it in lesser sums.
More often.
Because sometimes that quarter is a bit of a hit,
It's a big lump. That's absolutely right. Yes, that's an important point to make, that quite apart from this postponement thing, if you're having trouble, and you're quite right, sometimes a few thousand bills coming in, you can often arrange for it to be paid monthly or possibly even more often than that, and so you're maybe even weekly, I'm not sure, but ask your council is the thing. Just ring them up or email them or have a look on their website. There's quite a lot of flexibility out there. I should also say that there are quite a few other councils, other than those ones I listed, that will do it for people who are in financial difficulties. And so in that case, you've got to go through a bit more of a exercise in getting the thing set up. They want to know your financial situation, Yeah.
So all in all, you're pretty positive about this. It's another way, isn't it, to keep the best from the door?
And a couple of other quick points, if we got time.
Yeah, totally. Heaps of time. That
some of the councils, we've been talking about rates postponement. Some of them also do rates rebate, and that is they just forgive the rates forever. It doesn't run up as a debt, and that's for people in quite big financial difficulty.
Strife.
And it does seem to vary. People on low incomes and so on, sometimes those are available for people at any age. So if you're really struggling to pay the rates, also have a look online at rate rebates or phone them up or email your council and see if they offer that for you. So that's something else for that group that is struggling. But just going on, a couple more features I just wanted to point out about the rates postponement.
Yes.
You can usually do it with just some of your rates. If you're looking at it and thinking, not sure I want to run up that big a debt, you could do it for, say, half will quite often be allowed.
Yeah.
And you can repay it, any or all of it back whenever you
At
want
any time.
to. So let's say you get an inheritance. It's surprising sometimes people might expect an inheritance from their parents, but they might not expect it from an auntie or an uncle or a sibling or something like that.
Yes.
And they suddenly find they've got 100,000, you know.
Yeah.
And if they won't run up one of these debts, they can just pay it back off then.
Yes.
Without any difficulty. And you do have to keep up your insurance and the maintenance of the property, and they want to see proof that you're still insuring it, because obviously if there was a fire and it wasn't insured, they've lost their asset.
Exactly.
Yes, and so yes.
And what about for those people who are living in an area that doesn't have this facility?
I would suggest you lobby your council.
Yeah. You wonder why it wouldn't be across the board.
Yes, I know. It's obviously a kind of legal thing where each council undertakes it itself and is free to decide whether they will or not. I wouldn't mind betting that there are quite a few councils that don't offer it who have never really thought much about it. And I would suggest to people in those areas, contact your council member, somebody you know in the council, and say, hey, here's something you could do that might win you quite a lot of friends by getting this program going, because if they go online, they'll see all these other councils are doing it, you know. Why wouldn't they? So, you know, I'm all for, if you don't like what's going on, make a bit of noise.
Yeah, squeaky wheel.
Yes,
Gets the attention. Indeed.
Yes.
Well, that's great, Mary. Well, thank you for that. That's a good little tip. An excellent tip.
Mark.
And what about how are you feeling at the moment with the way everything is going? Are you feeling more optimistic?
It feels like, I think it's partly the weather, don't you?
Yeah. Oh, gosh,
we're suddenly over hopefully the worst of the cold, although I must say in Auckland, you don't really have a spring. You go winter one day, summer the next day, winter the next day.
Exactly.
And probably that's true all over the country. But I think there is a sort of uplift in people's attitudes, and some of the surveys recently of consumer confidence and so on are lifting. But house prices are still continuing to fall. We don't know how long that'll go on, but I mean, I don't really think they're going to drop a lot further, but it might take a long, long time before they
really
start
come
rising
back
again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Probably they rose too quickly anyway.
They did. But just in recent years, the rise was just stupid.
Crazy. Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Well, Mary, it's always a pleasure to have you here, and you'll be back in
thank you, Mark.
fortnight with Jessie.
Jessie again, yes.
Excellent.
Thanks very much.
Good on you.